In today's video, we want to go through a little bit more of Tony Seba's research, specifically look at one of the reports he put out on the future of food. And he's put this out a number of years ago, but I don't think many people have read it, and so I want to go through that. This video is going to be a lot of reading, so if you want to not listen and skip and do the reading yourself, links for these articles are all in the description. Let's get into the video. Rethink X, they put out a blog, rethinkdisruption.com. This was written back in 2020, but I think it still applies today. Proteins are the most common molecules made using precision fermentation today, as they bring many of the key characteristics like flavor, structure, texture, and medicinal value to the products they are used in. But other types of molecules can be made as well, like fats, oils, and chemical compounds, meaning that products across many industries will benefit. The fundamental disruption of the current industrial agriculture food system, as described in Rethinking Food and Agriculture, hinges on precision fermentation. But it's clear that in the media, most of the buzz is about plant and cell-based meats. There is overlap when considering these three technologies, but they are in fact distinct. Cell-based meat, or lab-grown in vitro cultured meat, is produced by taking a starter cell culture from an animal and growing these cells outside the animal, then forming the cells into the shape of the desired product, whether it's steak, a patty, or a nugget. Plant-based foods are made from plant ingredients exclusively extracted or harvested from nature, and then sometimes shaped into a particular product, like a steak or a patty. Precision fermentation can dramatically improve both production methods by producing key ingredients to raise the quality and lower the cost of plant-based foods, and by producing cheap and abundant feedstock that helps in the growth promotion of cells for cell-based foods. We'll get into these concepts more in later videos. Products made from all three methods will be part of the modern food system that is emerging, but the key technology underpinning them all will be precision fermentation. So this technology, precision fermentation, is going to enable us to create really good quality plant-based meats that are practically indistinguishable from animal meat that we eat today, and it will allow us to create cell-based meats, which are identical to animal meat today, but have drastically fewer resources. So, for people who want to eat animal flesh, they'll still continue to be able to do that. For people who want to be vegan and want to eat good quality plant-based meats, because they want to eat meat, but not from an animal, they can also do that as well. This is what they're looking at for this coming decade. The second domestication of plants and animals, the disruption of the cow, and the collapse of industrial livestock farming. I'd encourage you to read this entire report, especially if you're an investor in the space, but I want to just focus on precision fermentation and cell-based meats. So there's a lot of great stuff in here. We're just going to scroll down to the important parts. So the driving force behind these new possibilities, disrupting the cow, removing industrial agriculture as we know it today, is precision biology. This encompasses the information and biotechnologies necessary to design and program cells and organisms, including genetic engineering, synthetic biology, systems biology, metabolic engineering, and computational biology. To be clear, this doesn't mean a bunch of genetically engineered foods. This just means this is the field of biology that is responsible and that is going to give us the technology we need to actually make these foods possible. Synthetic biology has undergone a conceptual shift by becoming an engineering discipline. Just like software developers, synthetic biologists can engineer biology and improve the quality, scalability, nutrition, taste, structure, and cost. New information technologies like machine learning with deep neural networks are allowing scientists to analyze complex biological processes with far greater speed and accuracy than ever before. For example, we now have the technology to annotate a database of 100 million proteins in less than 2 days using a single computer. Meanwhile, Technologies like CRISPR have given scientists new tools to manipulate genetic matter to design specific organisms that can be programmed to produce molecules with the precise attributes required. With the aid of artificial intelligence and robotics, this means we can now formulate millions of potential versions of new food products and ingredients and simultaneously analyze and test them through high throughput screening to ensure the best combination of nutrition, taste, flavor, aroma, and mouthfeel. We have now reached the point where scientists can design and synthesize almost any known or unknown molecule, while rapidly falling costs mean we can do so far more cheaply than ever before. For example, the cost of fully sequencing the human genome, remember in the other video we talked about the cow genome? It was $1 billion in 2000, and that took 13 years to sequence the first human genome. Today, it takes a few days and costs about $1,000. When these advances in precision biology are combined with the food as software production model, where the databases of millions of individual molecules can be updated and shared by scientists in real time with production facilities across the world, food engineers are able to design products in the same way that software developers develop apps for smartphones. This is so key. I'm going to say it again. Food engineers, because of these new technologies that we have today, so programmers can go and make any app that they want for a phone. Food programmers can create any type of food that they want. Continual iteration means, so when you keep improving something, that modern food products will improve rapidly, both in functional attributes and in cost. Just as version 1.0 hits the market, companies will be working on version 2 and then version 3 and so on and so forth. So everyone now, Beyond Meat, for example, as kind of the poster child for the plant-based burger movement, is now on version 2 of their burger, I believe. Eat Just for their cultivated chicken product is on version 2. That hasn't been released, well, at a wide scale in the US yet. It is in Singapore, but they're already at version 2. So if you think of the iPhone and think about how the first iPhone looked and now how the latest iPhone looked, we're gonna have similar progress in food. This rapid improvement is in stark contrast to the industrial livestock production model, which has all but reached its limits in terms of scale, reach, and efficiency. So here we can see these are some of the key underlying technologies that are falling in cost, which are allowing us to put all the data for how to make food in databases and also produce that food. One key process enabled by the convergence of these technologies and their rapid falling costs. So there's a lot of other things like, medicine is changing. We're going to have medicine that is essentially personalized, and we're going to get food that's personalized. We have new materials. This decade is going to be absolutely incredible. So precision fermentation is the combination of precision biology with the age-old process of fermentation. It allows us to program microorganisms to produce almost any complex organic molecule. These include the production of proteins, fats, and vitamins to precise specifications, abundantly, and ultimately at marginal costs approaching the cost of sugar, basically zero. These molecules are vital ingredients across a wide range of industries as they bring structure, function, and nutrition to consumer products. The cost of precision fermentation is being driven ever lower by a steep decline in the cost of precision biology. As a result, the cost of producing a single molecule by precision fermentation has fallen from $1 million per kilogram in the year 2000 to about $100 per kilogram today. And we expect the cost to fall below $10 per kilogram by 2025. So as you can see here, this technology has been used for a long time. Insulin, we've already talked about this. Rennet, if you've heard anything about precision fermentation, you'll have heard about these things. We're using it in cosmetics already, and we're using it in materials. And here we are, 2020, it's now becoming cost competitive in food. So here we have the story of insulin, we have a history of fermentation, and new technologies, right? We have the heme for the Impossible Burger. This is kind of version 1.0 of the burger. We're just using one ingredient here. And then food ingredients with growth cultures also enables us to produce cell-based meats. So precision fermentation is the key to unlocking the potential for plant-based products and for other new technologies such as cell-based meat. Turning plants into consumer food products involves specialized ingredients, and precision fermentation will allow microorganisms to produce an infinite number of these ingredients to enhance and improve plant-based products. Precision fermentation is also key to underpin a number of new production technologies, such as producing growth factors for the production of cell-based meat. To produce cell-based meat, animal cells, which is a combination of muscle fat and connective tissue, are harvested and grown in a growth medium in a laboratory and assembled in such a way that they replicate conventional meat products. Ground meats are far easier to replicate than steaks, as they have less structural complexity. The growth medium represents the major cost. In the previous, or 2 videos ago, we talked about how Beef Tech was creating a plant-based version of fetal bovine serum, which was representing basically the main cost driver to reducing the cost of cultivated meat. And of course, there's other growth factors that we need as well, but they've essentially cracked the code, and they would be using these precision fermentation technologies to make their plant-based version of fetal bovine serum. So the growth medium represents the major cost barrier to actually scaling cultured meat, but precision fermentation has the potential to produce the key growth proteins required abundantly and at very low cost. So work is obviously continuing on cell-based meat independently from precision fermentation, and while scale-up and product structure remain challenges because it's quite complicated to make these products, huge progress has been made. See part 2. If you were farming cattle and your neighbor managed to farm their cattle with 10 times less land and 25 times less feedstock and 5 times less water, I think you would want to find out their secrets, right? To illustrate just how disruptive modern foods will be, we're going to use the example of the cow, which is one of the most inefficient ways to manufacture protein. The cattle industry is very resource intensive, with enormous quantities of feed, crops, land, water, and time dedicated to the production of animal-based products. Currently, farmers essentially grow an entire cow before breaking it down into specific products such as steak, leather, collagen, and the process is nearing its limits in terms of resource efficiency, with little potential to improve cost of production. For example, cow feed efficiencies have made basically zero improvements over the last 30 years. You can't make a cow eat more food. You can stuff it down its throat, but there's a limit to how much food you can feed this cow. But with precision fermentation, a process that will continue to fall dramatically in cost, these products can be produced using the precise number of individual molecules needed. Modern foods will be 10 times more efficient than a cow at converting feed into end products because a cow needs energy via feed to maintain and build its body over time. Less feed consumed means less land required to grow it, which means less water is used and less waste is produced. The savings are dramatic, more than 10 to 25 times less feedstock, 10 times less water, 5 times less energy, and 100 times less land. These order of magnitude improvements in input and time efficiencies will translate to order of magnitude lower production costs. During the 2030s, so in 10 years' time, we anticipate the total cost of modern foods will approach 1/10 the cost of cow products, while the marginal cost of production will approach the cost of sugar plus energy and water. And again, if we create renewable energy, then the marginal cost of energy also becomes almost zero. And so the cost of food production becomes the cost of water. The carbohydrate-based inputs needed to power modern foods can potentially come from any biomatter, leaves, crops, seaweed, or algae. Modern foods will also bring about an entirely different food production system that will move from the field to the fermentation tank, eliminating the current supply and value chains associated with cattle production and replacing them with a far more efficient and local production system that all but eliminates waste and reduces significantly the need for transport. That will also cut distribution costs and price volatility, which will further cut product costs, right? Because existing cattle supply chains are heavily dependent on expansive infrastructure, large-scale crop farms, large slaughterhouses, packing facilities, distributors. They're pretty redundant because eventually the retailer will be able to become the producer if you can produce all of your food locally. Just like ice shifted from being extracted from northern lakes to being produced in local refrigerators in the late 19th century, food production will shift from large, remote agricultural areas to smaller, easily accessible urban areas. Right? So if you live in a city, you can make your food in that city. You might even be able to make your food at home. Modern food technologies will allow the production of foods with an infinite range of properties, including those related to tolerability, allergies, and personalization, meaning consumers will ultimately be able to order food specifically designed to meet their individual needs. Modern food products will be more healthy and nutritionally complete than their animal-derived equivalents. For example, a precision fermentation-enabled burger can contain not only less fat and salt than a burger made from a cow. We still haven't achieved this, by the way, but we're getting really close. But more vitamins and minerals than a portion of fresh vegetables. Modern protein should also be more bioavailable than animal protein. Over the long term, we're not necessarily going to have food that looks the same as it does today. When we talk about a one-to-one substitution, we're talking about getting a steak, getting a hamburger, getting these foods that people eat today and are familiar with today, and so we're talking about replacing them. Those replacements are going to happen, as you've seen in the media, with plant-based meats, and they're going to happen with cell-based meats, and that's really going to happen pretty soon. They're going to sell cell-based meats pretty soon. But I think the whole idea that we're eventually going to replace 100% of all the meat that we eat with cell-based meats or plant-based meats is wrong, because that's just kind of step one. Step two is actually going and creating these new types of foods, completely new types of foods that I can't tell you about because we haven't even invented them yet. We can do whatever we want with food. Elements of how the disruption is going to work. You can already see this based on the products that are on the market and based on what you can already eat in restaurants today. So modern foods will disrupt the products with simpler structures like ground beef before those with more complex structures like steak. So we already can see that we have plant-based burgers. They're already pretty good with Beyond Meat Impossible Burger. With those, we've already reached taste parity with conventional meat in fast food. So that's the structural complexity. The simple ones are a lot faster to go first. Concentration. So modern foods will first disrupt products with low concentrations of key functional ingredients, such as milk. So again, if we look at milk only has 3.3% protein. The rest is fat and water. So all you have to do is produce 3.3% of the protein, put in some water, and add in some fat. So that can be plant-based fat, such as coconut fat, or it can be even something created by precision fermentation as well. And you just build that from the ground up. Scarcity. So modern foods will also disrupt products that are scarce in nature and difficult to extract, and therefore costly, such as insulin. Insulin's happened a long time ago. Now, cell-based meat. The disruption that most people instinctively think about is the one-for-one substitution of an existing product for a new one, such as a burger or a sausage or steak. Initially, these one-to-one substitutions, we see replacements coming from both precision fermentation enhanced food, discussed above, and cell-based meat. Cell-based meat is the direct one-to-one substitution of a complete structurally complex food product made from animals. This is where the animal cells, which again, muscle and fat, are cultivated in a growth medium outside an animal to create meat. Animal meat without the animal. This is the approach taken by companies such as Mosa Meat, Memphis Meats, and many other companies. The disruptions involving any kind of structural products will move more slowly than the single molecule ingredients because these products are harder to develop due to the structural complexity and the need to combine different types of molecules such as fats and proteins. Cell-based meat is a fundamentally different disruption to precision fermentation with its own cost curve. Just like precision fermentation, the cost of cell-based meat production is falling rapidly. Not only does it have its own cost curve, but it has its own adoption rate and regulatory approvals. However, cell-based meat may actually have a distinct advantage from a consumer perspective because it is animal meat. And so conceptually, consumers may feel more comfortable with this. The plant-based meat revolution is happening. The cell-based meat revolution is happening. And that's happening over the next 5 to 10 years. The one-to-one substitution is going to happen a lot faster than a lot of people think. Read the report. Links are in the description. I'm Chris, and we'll see you in the next video.